All right, we are going to continue with media availabilities. We are now joined by driver of the number 4 Stewart-Haas Racing Ford, Kevin Harvick. If you have a question for Kevin, please raise your hand and we will get a wireless microphone to you. We're going to go ahead and start with Matt.
Matt Weaver, Sportsnot. You're locked in. You've got a lot of teammates who need to join you. How do you kind of balance it within the Ford team of kind of serving all those needs?
We have enough trouble serving our own needs. So, I think a lot of that stuff just plays out. And when you have the opportunity to put yourself in a position to help, you try to help as much as you can and go from there. So it's just, I've always found it harder to try to coordinate something and make it all work because it all seems to get mixed up and so you go race and see when those opportunities fall to push and stay in line and do those types of things.
And then kind of a big picture question. You won 2 Xfinity championships, kind of the old school way. You won the first elimination championship in 14, arguably had one taken from you in 20. When you kind of look at the current dynamic kind of holistically, the pros and cons, what do you think of the current way that we decide a champion?
Well, you don't win them like Earnhardt did. I think, definitely as you look at it, what we do, it's different, right? So we're definitely in the entertainment business to make things exciting. And, I think as you look at the last race and it's definitely, there's a lot that goes into it, but it definitely doesn't reflect the whole year. And I think our years are definitely probably proof of that just because of the fact in 14, we won the right race. In 15, we didn't win the right race. In 20, we didn't win the right race. And so, I think it just, I guess as long as you're in it enough, it cycles out and circles back. So, I think I can see it both ways. Look, I'm going to sit on the other side of the fence and want it exciting. And, I think from a competitor standpoint, I've raced it both ways. And I think, it's a long season, and there's a lot to it to come down to one race.
All right, let's go ahead and go to Greg.
Over here, Kevin, Greg Engel, Forbes. As you look at, the end and you're done and all that stuff, and, one of the things I'm sure you're not going to miss is having to service sponsors as a driver, make sure you get the right suit on and all that. But as you got those, have you built up those relationships over the years with the different sponsors? And then you've got KHI on the other side. Have you been able to leverage some of that in order to maybe bring it into the KHI fold? Or is there always like a delineation line where you don't mix the two, if that makes sense?
I don't know that we've actually will lose a sponsor. So, I think as you go forward, they will be different, obviously. I think there'll be, the partnerships that we've managed and are a part of. And I don't know that I still won't have a relationship with every one of them. So, I think as you move forward, I think that's one of the more rewarding pieces that has come out of this whole puzzle are the relationships. And then also, being a part of the conversations and, the management group and helping find them things that fit their new budgets and new ideas and who who and where you place those sponsorship dollars has been interesting. So, I mean, there's obviously a lot of moving pieces, but we will have good relationships with many of our current partners as we go forward.
And without naming it, was there a track that you would not want to ever race on again that you're like, oh my God, I'm glad I don't have to race there anymore?
Mm-hmm. Indy Road Course.
All right, we're going to go to Jordan and then Jeff.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. What have you seen anything different from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. this year on the racetrack from years past?
I think look, Ricky's mature, right? He's been around this a long time, and I would put him in the mature category. And I think from his standpoint, I think that the car's rolling a lot more this year for a number of reasons. I think they've done a good job in managing the days when the car's not running good. I think they've done a good job of, I think Mike's done a good job with Ricky. I think Ricky has a lot of trust in Mike. You know, so I think that whole group has kind of matured together and made more out of their situation than what they have in the past, because, you know, they've finished a lot more races and obviously won the Daytona 500 and you know, had several good runs throughout the season. So they're just not all going to be good. I mean, you're just going to show up in some of these days and you're just going to be off. And you know, it's hard to figure out what you need to do if the car's wadded up and you know, you're having to analyze something just by theory and instead of everything that goes with having the car in one piece. So so I think they've just done a better job as a total group, and you know, Ricky's fallen into that category, but I think that crew chief driver combination is super important as to how the driver's confidence goes and the way things work.
Thank you.
Jeff?
Kevin, a lot gets made about how you guys always seem to maximize every week, and even if you guys don't have the car, you seem to get up there in the top 10. Like, how do you do that?
Well, I think it's part of that same conversation that we just had, right? You know, you have to keep the car rolling, and you have to be able to just grind away and make your car better throughout the day and stay in the game and be able to reset as a group, to hope that every time you pit and when things aren't going right, that the car is going to get better. And so, you know, I think a lot of that comes with, and I tell a lot of our young drivers this, they say, well, my car's not good. I'm like, well, why? I said, you're a big part of that process. The driver's the big part of the process that really helps keep everything under control as far as the direction of the car. Is it tight for aero reasons, mechanical reasons, and understanding, you know, how to push things forward to do that. So, you know, I think for us, we just grind away and keep ourselves in contention and do as many little things right. And you know, I think that feedback back and forth, driver, crew chief, goes right back to the same conversation of making yourself useful as an asset inside the car to be able to give the information of what's wrong with the car. So, you know, I think grinding away and just always believing that it's going to get better after this adjustment and resetting and going again.
Go ahead.
Happy, let's talk a little bit about beyond here. First race, Darlington. Obviously, you've had success there in the past, but having that as the first race in the playoffs, what are your thoughts as you get ready to roll in on that one?
You know what? I don't have any thoughts. I don't have any. Every time I put thought into, you know, we should run good here, we should run good there, it seems like it could be the opposite. So, you know, I think Darlington has been a good racetrack for us in the past, and you know, we've had good finishes there, and always been one of my favorite places to race. But you know, I think looking at predicting what you're going to do is really not in the cards anymore, just because, you know, sometimes you show up and it's just completely different. So hopefully it goes like it has in the past, and because Darlington has been a great place for us.
I'll say pretty fair on that, but what about the first three races? You like the grouping of the three races for the first round?
I'm still worried about Daytona, so I haven't got to the third the group of three yet. So we'll go from you got me to go to Darlington. So where's the next two? Huh? Kansas. Okay. Kansas and Bristol. It should be fine. But I'm not sure.
All right, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. Chris Gollin here with News Daytona Beach. You've been coming to Daytona for over 20 years now, and this is shaping up to be your last time here in the media center as a driver, given you don't win tomorrow. I was wondering, other than the obvious, which would be winning the Daytona 500, what are some of your favorite memories or just things that stand out over your career at Daytona?
When I first started, we spent a lot of time here testing and preseason testing, and we'd come back and test some of our super speedway stuff. And you know, I think for me, I still remember driving in that tunnel for the first time to test here and realizing that you were getting ready to race for real, because when you drove into the Daytona International Speedway, you knew that things were you were progressing in the right direction. So if I think outside of the Daytona 500 and the summer wins and the shootout and all the different things that we've been fortunate to be a part of, from a success standpoint here, and wins as an owner in the Busch Series, and there's just been a lot of great things. But look, this is the pinnacle of our sport, and being able to race here has been an honor, but always what you were shooting for in your career, because you knew if you were racing at Daytona, you were on a good path. So, but I'll never forget driving in here the very first time and looking at the racetrack when it was empty and thinking, sitting on the grid out there, because you used to sit there for hours as you waited your turn to go out. And I was sitting there and they told me, they said, all right, when you go, you got to go out and hold it wide open. And I had never been here before, and it's half. I mean, when you're sitting at the end of pit road, it's half as narrow as Talladega. So it was an interesting first lap, but I'll never forget it. Yep.
All right, Holly, and then Lee.
Hi, Kevin. I don't know if you would consider yourself a sentimental person or not, but I'm curious if so far this season there's been a facility that you went to, or something that was given to you, or something that really stood out to you that will mean quite a lot as you look at this being your last season racing. And secondly, how hard will it be for you to kind of take all of that sentiment in when you're racing for a championship in the last 10 races? I imagine your mind might be in a different place.
Yeah. Well, I'm not. I think for me, when you look around and you see the forever signs and you see the different things that each particular racetrack has done, and then you listen to the fans this year, and you really get a great idea of just how important they coming back and doing this last year, and putting the forever logo around it, and going to each track and letting them do what they want to do and be a part of that it's important. I may have thought it was silly when we started, and I think as you look back at it, and I listened to those conversations with our group at SHR, and just the way that Tony did his, and the way that he thought he should have done some things, those things are fun. It's been fun just because of the fact that I don't have to worry about what people think. You can just listen and realize that you've had a great impact on the sport, and the fans appreciate the effort and the things that have gone into, whether it be driving or off the track, or showing the emotion of being mad, or whatever the instance is, to hear all those stories and let people tell you about all those different situations, and see the different pictures and things at the racetrack from all the success at certain tracks. And for me, that's not something I would ever do, because I look at it as bragging. But at this particular point, it is what it is, right? It's success at different places. We've been very fortunate to be successful and win races and have an impact. And I think being able to wrap my arms around all that and say, okay, I'm good with this. Let's enjoy it. So it's been enjoyable, just because of the fact that some of the things, the pictures and different things that I've seen, I forgot that we actually did, or different moments, or stuff that fans bring up, or whatever the instance is. It's been fun to be a part and go back and think about all those things that were a part of that particular moment. So it's been good, and Marcus Smith was he was a huge part of saying, you got to come back and do this way, and for the tracks and for the fans and for the sport. And I was like, oh man, I don't know. And now that we've gone through this part of the season and been through all the things that we've been through, it's been a lot of fun to go back and reflect on so many things.
Lee.
Lee Spencer, Catch Fence. For as many times as you've been here, raced in the pack, or even Talladega, but particularly here since we're here, can you explain to lay people what it's like being in that draft, to have all those cars around you going at that rate of speed and trying to process everything that's coming in your ear, whether from Rodney, your spotter, other people, and just keep it all straight and keep your car in line and do the deal?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of information to process, and I think just when you're in this every week, you kind of take for granted everything that's happening around you and the things that you do on a weekly basis. And it's just like Ross and I talking right there that we're going to go fire the car up and leave pit road wide open and just go run a qualifying lap just because that's what it is, right? And typically you would be somewhat cautious of trying to put yourself in a position to at least make sure everything was okay. And today you put yourself in a position to just go out there and hope, know that you've got to do what you got to do. And if it's not okay, then it is what it is. And so, but as far as the racing goes, it's different here than it used to be before they repaved it, because handling was just so much of an aspect of what we did here with the bumps and the worn out asphalt, and the pack would spread out. And now the pack doesn't really spread out, and it's a lot narrower than Talladega was or is. And I think there's just the track position is super important, and you want to stay up in the front and miss the wreck. But there is a lot of information that is going on inside of your head, and with the spotter and the crew chief. And crew chief doesn't get to talk much. The spotter talks more than anybody. So it's there's definitely a lot to process.
And to kind of follow up on Darlington, 13 of the last 14 starts at Darlington were with Rodney. And I think all but one of those starts with Rodney, you finished in the top 10, including like 11 top fives. Your relationship with Rodney, does he love Darlington as much as you do? And is it that kind of that cohesion between you that has added to that success?
Well, I think when you compare that to some of the other tracks, it's probably not that good, but they're still pretty good. But Darlington is just a place that I enjoy racing, and he enjoys going to. And I think there's just places that you just, things just click. And I think for me, that kind of fits my driving style, and not having to worry about going super fast the first 2 or 3 laps, and just making the car go over the long run and being precise, and not taking too many chances as you go throughout the day to tear up your car and make it to the end. So it's a racetrack that kind of fits what we do, and I think through the years it's just been a really good place for us. So hopefully it stays that way for one more.
All right. Thank you for your time, and good luck this weekend.